Hello friends, schoolsteps.in welcomes you again. In this tutorial, we'll talk about syncing data items. Let's understand what the data item is. A data item defines the data interface that the system uses to synchronize data between handhelds and wearables. I repeat, a data item defines the data interface that the system uses to synchronize the data between the handhelds and wearables. So if you compare it with the message is a one-way communication, though here we are synchronizing the data. A data item is synchronized across all the devices in an Android Wear network. It is possible to set data items while not connected to any nodes. Those data items will be synchronized when the nodes eventually come online. So if you remember, in case of message, this scenario will throw an error. Data items are private to the application that created them and are only accessible by that application on the other nodes. Data items should generally be small in the size, relying on assets for the transfer of larger objects such as images. We will talk about assets in one of our coming tutorials. Now, data item generally consists of following items. One is a payload and second one is a path. So if I talk about the path first, it is a unique string as we discussed in the previous tutorial, and that should start with a /. Coming to the payload, it is a byte array which you can set with whatever data you wish. I repeat, whatever data you wish, and it allows you to do your own object serialization and deserialization. The size of the payload is limited to 100 KB. Now let's talk something about data map. Data map is a class and it is recommended to use this particular class. This approach lets you to work with the data items in the form of an Android bundle. So the object serialization and deserialization is done for you. So basically it will make your life easy and you do not need to do any serialization and deserialization directly using the data items. It is done for you. Further, data map allows you to manipulate the data using the key value pairs. We will talk more about data map in this tutorial. Let's continue with our program now. Open Android Studio and open the project on which we worked last, that is My Data Layer message. Now we need to look for the workspace of this particular project. There are multiple ways to do this. If you select the project right here, you can see that in the bracket it is showing you the path. It is saying home, and inside home there is a folder with the name Udemy. Further, there is a folder with the name workspace, and inside the workspace is our project with the name My Data Layer message. Further, if you see at the top, the white color text is showing you the path for the workspace. Last but not the least, if we right click on our project and go to show in files, it will take us to the project. So it is showing us the path of our project, and if we go one directory up, that is the workspace, we will get all the projects inside this particular workspace. So we need to look for the My Data Layer message, which is our project. Right click, copy this project and paste it right here. Now let's rename this folder and let's call it My Data Layer data item. Now let's go back to the Android Studio again. Now go to File, click on Import Project, and right here look for the folder which we have just created. Here it is, select it and click OK. It will start building a project for you. It will create the project in the new window, so you have to look for the new window. Here it is. Click yes, and the project is available for you right here. Now expand the project, expand the mobile module, expand source, expand main, and expand Java. Now go to the package structure, right click on the package structure Go to refactor and rename. Click on the rename package, and instead of saying my data layer message, let's say my data layer data item, which is the name of our project. Make sure that it's all in the lowercase as this is the package name. Click on refactor. It will make changes everywhere. If you expand where source Java, you will see that package name has already been changed here. In the similar way, if you go to the Android manifest of Wear module, right here you can see that the package name has already been changed, and similar is with the Android manifest.xml of mobile module. Now the next thing that we need to take care of is we need to change the Android label, which is showing as the old one. So we need to go to the mobile module. Inside mobile module, we need to expand res, we need to expand values, and we need to open strings.xml. So right here, instead of saying my data layer message, we need to say my data layer data item, which is the name of our project. Now the same change we need to make in the Wear module. So we need to expand res folder of Wear module, go to values, open strings.xml, and make a change right here. Now it is a completely new project, which is the replica of old project. Let's continue. Now let's open the main activity of mobile module. Open it. Now inside the main activity, there is no change in the onCreate method, onStart method, as well as onStop method. Now the next method is the onConnected method. We need to make change in this particular method. So rather than calling this method, let's call another method with the name send data map to data layer. Now we need to create this particular method. So let's create it right here. Now before we implement this method, we need to create one more method. So let's say private data map, and let's give the name as create data map. Inside this method, we need to create the object of the class data map. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the tutorial, this data map contains the key value pair. So we need to say data map dot put long. Let's say the key is time and the value is system dot current time millis. So it will give us the current time in the milliseconds. Next, let's say data map dot put string. Let's call it 1, and let's give the value as soup. In the similar way, let's make two more entries, and here we need to say return data map. So here inside the send data map to data layer method, we need to say if Google client dot is connected, then do something, else do something. In the if condition, the first thing that we need to do is to get the object of data map. This method is the one which we have just created. After getting the object of data map, we need to pass it as a parameter in the thread class as we did here. So let's do it. Let's change the name of the class. Let's call it send data map to data layer, and right here let's say data map dot start. In the else condition, we just need to put a log. So now if you see the difference, in the send message method, we are just passing the message which is a string value. On the contrary, right here we are passing the data map which contains the key value pairs. Let's comment this method. Now this method is the one which we called on the click event of the button. So let's comment this as well, and let's create a new method. So I have added a method with the name send data map on click, and we are calling the method send data map to data layer, which we have just created right here. In fact, let's delete the commented methods as we are not going to use them. Now the next thing that we need to look into is the class which extends the thread class. So let's use this name instead of the existing name. Let's change the name of the constructor as well, and right here instead of passing string, let's pass the data map. Let's change this variable as well, and right here we need to initialize the data map. Now inside the run method, we are getting the nodes list. We are running a loop on the nodes list, And finally, inside the for loop right here, we are getting the ID of every node and we are passing it to the send message method of message API. Now, before we make changes inside the run method, we need to understand one very important concept. Let's discuss it first. Let's understand the concept of syncing data items versus messages. Syncing data items is data synchronization between handhelds and wearables. Let's take the example of WhatsApp application. Let's assume that you are a member of a WhatsApp group having 6 members in total including you. You send a picture, that is data item, in the group. At the time of sending picture, that is data item, you do not need to know how many of the group members are active at that time. In the other words, you do not need to know the number of active nodes. All you need to do is to send your picture, that is data item, only once. This means no loop is required, as you need to send the data item only once and you do not need to know the active nodes at the time you are sending your data item. Whenever other group members will be active, they will get to see the picture sent by you. Now let's talk about the messages. I have already told you that it is one-way request. Let's take the example where you need to invite your 5 friends for a party by posting letter. You need to have the current addresses of all 5 friends. That is, you need to know the list of active nodes. You need to send 5 letters. That is, your loop size is 5 here. You need to write different unique addresses on each letter. That is your node ID. After you post the letter, if one of the friends shifts to some other place, your invitation will be lost. In other words, after you send a message and a node is disconnected, message will be lost. So what exactly will happen if you run a loop in case of data item? So if no node is active at that time, your data item will not be sent, as the loop will not run. If more than one nodes are active at the time you send the data item, you will end up sending data items multiple times, which may not be required. Now let's go back to our run method. So right here we can delete the nodes list as well as the for loop. One semicolon is missing here. So the next thing that we need to do is to use the object of data map. And to use the object of data map, we need to have the object of put data map request, and we need to wrap the data map inside the put data map request. So right here we need to say put data map request is equal to put data map request dot create. Now this requires a string path which should be unique. We have already created one path with the name wearable data path. Now the next thing that we need to do is, using the object of put data map request, we need to wrap the data map inside it. So we need to say dot get data map dot put all, and right here we need to pass data map. Now after doing this, we need the object of put data request, which is right here, is equal to, so we need to say put data map request dot as put data request. So what we have done till now is we have created one object of put data map request. We have wrapped the data map inside the put data map request, and further using the object of put data map request, we have created one object of put data request. Now we need to use the object of put data request. So right here we need to say data API dot data item result is equal to, here we need to say wearable dot data API dot put data item, and right here we need to pass Google API client, and the second parameter that we need to pass is put data request, and outside the main bracket we need to say dot await. Now await method blocks the thread until we get the results. This is not allowed on the UI thread, so this is one of the reasons that we have created a new thread here. Further, await is an example of synchronous call as we are blocking our thread here. If you want your code to execute in a strictly defined order, perhaps because the results of one call is needed as an argument to another, you can make your request synchronous by calling the await method. The way we are using synchronous calls here, we can also use the async calls. We will talk about the async calls in our coming tutorials. Now we can delete message API, and right here we can pass the data item result. We need to change the log statements. I will do it quickly. Now next thing that we need to do is to click on project, look for the mobile module, look for the res folder, expand it, expand layout, and under the layout open the activity main.xml. Inside the activity main.xml, let's delete edit text as we do not need it. We have already created the object of data map. We need to delete this line as well. And further, last but not the least, we need to change the name of the onClick method. So instead of saying send message on click, we need to say send data map on click. If you remember, this is the name of the method that we defined in the main activity. So friends, we are done with the mobile module. Let's take a break here and we'll continue with the VR module in the next tutorial. Friends, with this I take your leave. Thank you so much. Please like our page on facebook.com/letsandroid. If you have any query, do write us at info@schoolsteps.in or schoolstepsin@gmail.com. Thank you.